So, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending? How do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. I'm Merrill Chandler, and welcome to the Un-Fundable podcast. Welcome back to the Un-Fundable podcast. In this episode, we're going to knock it out of the park because we're going to be talking about the untold price that you pay for being unfundable. Whole paradigm shift here for you to be able to take in and take home. You're gonna love it. So I'll see you in just a second. And I'm back. All right. So in previous episodes, we've talked about the paradigm shift between everybody talks out in the marketplace about good credit, bad credit. Do you have good credit? I have good credit. I have great credit, right? Or I have bad credit. And what that means, generally speaking, good credit and bad credit means that you have negative accounts if you have bad credit, and you have clean credit, right? You have no negative accounts. You pay all your bills on time, and that's what good credit means. But we know exactly that is meaningless when it comes to your fundability, right? The paradigm shift is, are you fundable or not fundable? And this episode is about how we're going to talk how you are unfundable and the price you pay, right? The literal cost to your pocketbook and to your dreams by not being fundable. So, first thing I want to ask is, what does it mean when you say that you are successful? There's all kinds of definitions of a success. But when it comes to your finances, how do you define successful? So unless you have your own definition, you can borrow mine, because that's what I want to share with you. My definition of success is when other people's money make more money for me than I can make on my own. Now, what I mean by this is that when your money is making money, you don't have to be spending your time or your energy creating resources to fill the rest of your dreams, right? Some people call it money freedom. Some people call it time freedom, right? I call it my money making money so that I can do anything that I want, including invest in opportunities or spend time with my loved ones, my beloveds. I am here to make your dreams come true. That's what this whole podcast is about. But to make our dreams come true, we really do have to spend some time on making our financial dreams come true. Because for many things, not all things, but for many things, financial success allows more opportunity for every other definition of success we have, right? So now the question that I have is, do you know what opportunity is coming down the pipe? Do you know when that opportunity is going to be here? I ask this because some of you are real estate investors. Some of you are note buyers. Some of you Amazon. Some of you are retailers. Some of you have brick and mortar businesses out there, gym owners, estheticians. We've got all kinds of clients that run the gamut of business owners, entrepreneurs, investors, etc., right? But did you know when that opportunity was going to come to you? Did you know when you chose into being a real estate investor? Did you know when you wanted to leave your W-2 job and buy that franchise? Did you know that when the opportunity was going to rise, right? Now, more interestingly, do you know when your priorities are going to change? So, this is I want to tell you a story about Frank. And Frank is a perfect example of opportunities and priorities changing and not being ready for it because you think you know who you are in the world and what you want to do, right? So let me I'm going to run through a few of these. So Frank started listening to Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey has amazing advice for certain types of lifestyles, right? But this gentleman, Frank, came to Dave, started listening to Dave Ramsey, and by the age of 23, he started moving over into a cash-only framework, right? He was like, I want to get out of debt. I don't want to owe anybody anything for any reason. And he started moving over. That was 16 years ago. All right. When he was 23, he started moving over. He used an accelerated debt reduction for his mortgage so that he was able to pay it off in 5 years. Now, that's admirable if you're looking to not have any debt. All right. Then after 6 months of not making payments on credit cards, car loans, mortgages, things like that, what he didn't know is that he lost his FICO credit score. FICO requires the last 6 months of information constantly reporting for you to have a FICO score. If you're not reporting that information, then it doesn't register. So he lost his FICO score. Now, without knowing it, all of his accounts, once they closed, once he paid off the mortgage, once he paid off his last car loan payment, once he closed all of his credit cards and totally cash debt free and cash only, he didn't know this, but after 10 years of the date of closure, all of those accounts fell off his credit report. So now he has no credit profile whatsoever. Right? Now he's thinking this is awesome. He's W-2. He's moving along in his life, and then all of a sudden, he is debt free and credit free. Then he ends up going to a real estate seminar, and he's like, I want to become a real estate investor. He's like so excited about the opportunity to become a real estate investor, right? And what he didn't realize was that his entire framework, everything that would make him successful in real estate investing, he had lost. Now, he did hear, like, say, hey, you don't need your credit and you don't need money, because all the stories that the real estate stages tell you, right? You can use somebody else's credit, or you can have an owner carryback on the loan. You can have all these different ways of doing this process. So he thought, yeah, I don't need credit. I'm going to do. And then, as many of us have found, it is not that easy, and the properties are not that easy to find when he's looking for not having any credit and not having any of his own cash, because he's just W-2 and kind of living hand to mouth, right? So by the time he hits 44, he knows that he wants to leave his W-2 job behind and move into real estate investing fully, and then this is when I meet him at one of my speaking at the real estate conferences that I speak at. And we have this conversation, and he's like, yeah, I'm just looking into becoming a real estate investor. I'm fascinated by it, but I don't have any credit. And I asked him, so what do you mean by no credit? He said, I paid off all my credit cards and closed them, paid off my mortgage. I paid off my student loans and my mortgage, paid them all off. How long ago was that, I asked. And he goes, about 15 years ago. And I'm like, I know that they've fallen off. There is no record on a credit report that he even exists as a in the financial world. He has no financial reputation whatsoever. So I kind of give him the hard facts. I'm like, guess what? How's it going on trying to find these properties with no money down, no cash infusion on your part? How you doing on finding owners that are willing to carry the paper? Says there are more deals that if I had cash, I would be able to buy it. Well, what about rich Aunt Mabel, right? Where are you going to come up with this money? And he's like, this is why I'm talking to you, because I understand that I am not fundable now. So, guys, just like I'm telling you, we do not know when your priorities are going to change. You may be W-2 right now. You may be a 20-year veteran of real estate investing or any other type of investment model. But the bottom line is, you may not be prepared to maximize, because you don't even know what fundability is, and you don't know how to best leverage your financial reputation. That's why you're with me, and we're enjoying this podcast together. So when you are fundable, when you have the power to invest in opportunities and new priorities that come to you, you're in a position to make entire new changes and make huge pivots in your life, right? So let's go over real estate investors and note investors, what fundability means to you, being prepared, having a profile, having a financial reputation that lenders are totally ready to lend to. You can have more capital to do more deals, right? Increased number of hard money loans you can carry at the same time. You can dominate any real estate investing market. And that means if you're investing in California, or you're investing in Indiana, Texas, or Ohio, where the houses are 75 to 100 grand. Whatever market you're in, your profile will match lender guidelines, so they can help you. They can help you finance for your buy and holds, or help you flip a property, or otherwise, right? So dominate the real estate investing in any market. Cash flow rentals with the lowest interest possible, right? And we're going to show an example here in a minute of this, of how meaningful it is for you to be able to create a fundable profile, and then how that translates into actual cold hard cash, right? You can fix and flip more properties faster. You can park properties on $1 million credit lines, right? I'll be telling you about one of my clients, and Michael. He literally has a credit line of $3.5 million that he drops new properties on and pulls them out after they're rehabbed and sells them out on the marketplace. I helped him negotiate that with his lender. There are ways in which you can leverage everything that you're doing to create $1 million credit lines for the least expensive money possible, right? And then you can also stop sharing profits. Stop sharing profits on every single one of the deals that you do, because you have credit partners or they're putting money down. I have a client who just emailed me this week saying, yeah, I want to buy my partner out because he put the down payment on an apartment complex, spent $130, and now they have to split. He's doing all the heavy lifting, but he has to split every dime with the person who had the money, because he didn't have the money to take down the property. So we can stop diluting our efforts and create the highest possible returns for us, right? Now, if you're in business, if you're not a real estate investor, you're not a note buyer, what's extremely powerful is that you will have access to the least expensive money possible. Easier financing for your business ventures, right? Faster and shorter startup times. So if you're engaging in a particular enterprise, the startup time is directly related to capital invested, right? If you can build, let's say you're building an application, if you can either take a year to build an app or 3 months to build an app based on how much money you have available. So startup times to prove the business concept are shorter and faster. Easier financing for investments, greater margins for leveraging. Some day traders, stock market. When you have resources available to you, you can increase your margins so that your yields are higher in whatever investments that you're doing. Now, killer one is faster turnaround on financing and the lowest possible interest rates. And of course, you save on all fees, on all interest by having a fundable profile, right? So we've talked about the being fundable lets you take advantage of new opportunities. Being fundable lets you take advantage of the priority shifts that all of a sudden some new thing comes to you and you're like, I'm ready to jump on that. You can't do that if your financial reputation is not one that lenders will lend to. All right? You with me? All right. Did I tell you about fire hose? right? Welcome, welcome to Fire Hose. Well, let's take a deep dive then into the causes of being unfundable. Now, this is the most important thing, guys, because as I said, it's not bad credit, good credit. Get that out of your mind. Catch yourself every time you talk about good credit or bad credit. What I want you to understand is these are 7 of the main principles. And we're going to be discussing through this podcast so many. We're going to be doing a deeper dive on every single one of these in future episodes. Every single one we're going to be addressing in full content, right? But think about it. One of the main reasons for not being fundable is having derogatory listings on your credit. Those are the late pays, collections, your liens, judgments, etc. But some of you haven't done the math yet, but if you have too many inquiries, you could have an 800 plus credit score and have too many inquiries and no one's going to pay attention to you, right? And you don't even know yet how many inquiries you're allowed every single year. We deeper dive into that. We just got to make sure that we're covering all the stuff for this episode and stay focused. But guys, I'm going to be going through every single one of these things and how to fix it. All right. So too many inquiries. You may have too much of a consumer profile. You look like a consumer, and lenders do not want to lend serious dollars to consumers. You can get any mall store credit card. You can get anything you want from a mall or an online or otherwise. But you're not going to get a $50,000 business line of credit from one bank, much less 10 banks, until you have a professional borrower profile. So if you look like you have a consumer profile, or it's low quality, and there's we'll go deeper there. If it's low quality, you're not fundable, and you're going to get rejected or denied in your applications. Now, the other is you have too high of utilization. I'm going to use an example here in just a minute of what that means. But high utilization means that the balance to limit ratio, how much of your limit you have used or utilized, is what they call utilization. If your utilization is too high, they will deny you, right? They won't raise your limits or won't give you new credit. And high utilization, believe it or not, we'll learn later, but 38%. It's not 60, 70, 80. 38%. We'll cover that more in detail. But if you're carrying balances that are being reported to the bureaus over 38%, you are literally killing the goose that lays the golden egg. You're telling the lender to reject you. All right. Then you may have too much available credit. Well, I have clients, I have reward hoppers that come to me, and the people who buy new or open up new credit cards because it's interest free for 12 to 24 months. And then they get all these tens of thousands of points, right? But they keep doing it. Every single time there's an offer, they get more and more credit. Problem is that you can have too much available credit on your personal profile. And if you have too much on your personal profile, you're not going to get approved for business lines of credit. And again, we're deep dive into that a little later, but just know high utilization and too much available credit are some of the biggest ones that are going to get you denied. All right. Then you have too little credit. Okay, doesn't it sound like the Three Bears? I mean, seriously, sounds like the Three Bears, right? The porridge is too hot. The porridge is too cold. The porridge is just right. Well, guess what? You have too high of credit limits. You have too low of credit limits. And then believe it or not, there is a perfect credit limit based on your income, right? And it's a multiple of your monthly income. So if you have too little credit, then the automatic underwriting systems, the AUSs, are not going to pay attention to you because you are outside of their tolerances and you're too much of a risk. All right. And then finally, presence of authorized users on the profile. I'll probably tell this story a couple of times because I don't know who of you are listening to, are binging all of these and who are picking out by title, but this is really important. We had a gentleman come to us who was super thrilled. He was rebuilding his profile after a bankruptcy, and when he went through this bankruptcy, we helped him after a certain number of years. That his profile had matured, aged, and we'd helped him get some other trade lines on his profile reporting. He was back in fundability mode, and he gets this, I believe it was a Chase card, and he gets this Chase card. It's like $20,000. He is thrilled out of his mind. He doesn't even know. He's just thrilled. And then, because he had been learning the principles of fundability, he hooked up his friend who still had horrible credit, and that friend was he put him on as an authorized user. Now, authorized users, you don't need to give your social security number. You, as the owner of the account, this guy just had to tell him his name. Hi, give it to Merrill Chandler. It wasn't me. Now, give it to Bobby Brown, all right? And Bobby gets a listing on his credit profile saying he's an authorized user on this guy's account. It wasn't one reporting cycle later, 30 days, right? 45 days after it was opened and reported that the new account that our client had gotten for $20,000 from Chase was closed, straight closed. And he emailed his team, and he's like, "What the hell is going on? Why did I get my account? It's only been open 30 days." The funny thing is that he put a friend who has horrible credit and has burned Chase and other tier 1 and tier 2 banks, put him on as an authorized user. Now remember, an authorized user means you have authority to use the account. So the risk was, if this guy has burned all of his accounts and he's coming to his friend to get on his account. Now, our client was just trying to hook his friend up, right? Hey, let's help build your credit. We'll get into how lame of a process that is, and we scolded our client and told him to go watch a couple of the training videos that tell you don't put anybody on as an authorized user. It doesn't help them. We'll get into that later in a later episode. But because he put his friend on, and his friend had horrible default behavior, and his borrower behaviors sucked, they closed down the account for our client. Guys, you can be unfundable because of who you authorized to use your account, and they close that thing down. All right. So those are 7. There are numerous others that we are going to be exploring over. You're going to be looking behind this curtain and seeing so many crazy things, just like we're talking about here in this example of authorized users. But all of these reasons can make you unfundable. The problem is many of you have several of them going on at the same time. So you are unfundable over and over and over again. Of course, they're not. And you can have a 720 credit score. You can have an 820 credit score. And some of the, other than derogatory listings, you may have a high credit score and being slaughtered, right? When it comes to your fundability. All right, so let's talk for a second about the high utilization, because that does affect a lot of people because they don't know what's actually happening. So let me tell you about Chris and Nicole and how they successfully cooked their golden goose. All right? Remember I said that your personal profile is the goose that lays the golden egg. I'm going to show you exactly a number of episodes. We're going to show how we can destroy that, because when we talk about here, when we talked about those reasons, all 7 of those reasons for being unfundable, every one of those reasons can manifest in like I said, in multiple ways, and every one of them make you unfundable. All right. So let's talk about personal credit card stacking that affected Chris and Nicole. So they come to us. And they were like literally hundreds of clients who come to us. They've been to a Amazon business building, an online business, a small business funding seminar, real estate investment seminar, any number of educational stages, and they come to us and told us about their problem. All right, their problem was that when they went to the seminar, they listened and said, "We want to buy this coaching program. We want to get involved in real estate." So, as most of them do, and we're going to rage on them in just a minute, as most of them do, you go to the back of the room and they have somebody who can help you get more credit cards, right? It's called credit card stacking. And they went back to the back of the room and they filled out the application, and they had good credit. They had great credit, right? High 700s. And they went through the process of getting more credit cards. Well, to the tune of 21 credit cards for her and 25 plus credit cards for him. And then they charged those up for two things. First, they charged them up to put on the education. So once you go over that, remember I said 38%. Once you go over that 38% and it's a brand new card, you are in the red zone. You are in danger. You are actually in the risk department at your credit card issuer. You're flagged. If you do anything even remotely close to 38% on your balances within the first 90 days, that means you are risking their money with something that they didn't see in your previous behavior, and you're going to be monitored carefully. Sometimes they lower the limits. Sometimes they close the accounts. More on that later. In their case, they charged up several credit cards and significantly lowered their credit scores. So they were in the high 700s, where it came down into the mid to high 600s from all of the balances from buying this $30,000 coaching package. Then they went out with their coaching. They went out and said, let's do a deal. So they were looking for a fix and flip, like many of our listeners do. And when they found the right fix and flip, they had to go to hard money and borrow money. They couldn't use any of the money that was on their credit cards, because you can't, with a credit card, you can't write a check and do a deal, right? The credit cards, they can liquidate them, but when you liquidate them and transfer that money to a checking account, all of your balances go up and your scores go down. That's exactly what they experienced. They even had to put some of the fix and flip, the rehab costs on the credit cards. And so they're literally up and up and up. Every one of their balances started climbing. When the balances got so high, the creditors started lowering their limits. Sometimes lowering their limits below the actual balance. That puts them upside down, or what's called over limit, and they were getting over limit charges. And so now they're cash flow pinched. In their business plan, they thought they could make all of this happen. And you know what the tragedy was? They couldn't qualify for the takeout mortgage, the long-term Fannie Freddie that they were doing, so that they could have this property and not flip it, because they found out they couldn't flip it. They wanted to turn it into a rental, and they couldn't even get the takeout mortgage because their scores had plummeted so low. So they were strapped for cash. They're ruined, cooked the goose, right? Remember I said the goose that lays the golden egg, totally cooked the goose, and they had no other options. When they came to us, we have a plan for all of this, but when they come to this, what you need to know is there is a way to get out of these circumstances. So let me walk you through kind of what we did for them. First, we implemented some customized debt shifting strategies, because remember, if the golden goose, the goose that lays the golden egg, is your personal profile, then we need to get that all optimized so that lenders look at it and go, yeah, I want to lend them money. The way we do that is we move the credit card balances over onto business accounts. Now, the business accounts, you have to do it the right way. You can't just go grab business, because in a future podcast, we're going to be telling you that some business credit cards, many business credit cards, actually report to your personal, and it's just more personal credit. It's not business credit. So if that's a landmine that'll blow you up if you don't do this right. So adult supervision is required. But I'm telling you that when you do it right, you move the credit card balances from personal to the business. Then we did some personal loans on their personal credit, because that's not credit cards. So once we drew down their credit scores and the fundability of their profile enough by that debt shifting strategy, then we opened up the opportunity to get I think it was 2 personal loans, and that reduced the revolving accounts even more, so that the credit card balances could come down and transfer them once again to the personal loans. Then we aged the personal loans long enough so that we would be able to turn those personal loans into highly credible profile influencing trade lines. And then we moved over to the business credit cards and credit line section of this kind of takeout plan. And once their personal profile was back in play, then and only then could they qualify for the takeout mortgage. And then they made then they've had it all. They were able to get the property into a 30-year Fannie Freddie, and where they were able to create the personal profile so that their golden goose was back in play. Now, guys, whether it sounds easy or difficult, there is a way to get out of the hole. Most people try and dig their way out of a hole. And as Brad, if you've watched any of the other episodes, you've met Brad. And Brad taught me, Merrill, you can't dig out of a hole. You have to ladder out of a hole, or be a helidrop, right? A helicopter pull you out of the hole, but you can't dig your way out of a hole. And most of us have that thing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You guys continue to try and do the same thing to get yourself out of debt. And you don't even know how debt works. You don't know how the credit system works yet. You don't yet know what the lenders are looking for, much less what they're driving towards in their what behaviors they're measuring and monitoring. Without that knowledge, we're kind of bumping around in the dark. All right. So first things. So couple of cautionary tales. Remember, I told you that you're going to be able to stop stepping on the funding landmines. The whole point of the Un-Fundable podcast is to stop stepping on the landmines. So, number 1, personal credit card stacking ruins your personal profile, ruins it. And it prevents you from doing anything else on your personal credit. And your personal credit, let's switch the metaphor. Your personal credit is the engine that the car requires, that your fundability requires to be fundable in business lines of credit, commercial loans, everything you need to succeed in fulfilling your financial dreams, right? So stop the credit card stacking. And if you haven't, if you've already run into that, then seek help. Go to fundinghackers.com and check out the boot camp that we do that helps people live and in color. Real live boot camps help you establish what you're doing. But I'm going to be talking about, that's if you want to fast track your awareness of all this. We're going to cover everything that I have ever thought or come up with or invented with regards to optimization in these podcasts. So I'm just saying, if you want the fast track, there's a place to go. Now, the next thing is that you got to understand that, and more on this later, but you need to understand that the 524 rule is becoming more and more prevalent with more and more banks. Over the next 12 to 24 months, it's going to be their credit card stacking is going to be shut down completely. So a lender will deny any credit card application if there has been more than 5 applications in the preceding 24 months. That's the 524 rule. So everybody depends on credit card stackers depend on picking up at least 5, 7, 10 new credit cards, usually on your personal. But if they're talking about inquiries for credit cards, so I've talked to some of the big real estate stages, and I prophesied. I told them it's coming. You guys better have a new business model for having people buy your $30,000 programs, because being able to pick up credit cards and ruin your clients and your customers' credit in the process is not okay with me. It's so not okay with me that I'm going to out them, right? And in different podcasts, guys, I call them liars, cheaters, and thieves episodes, but we're going to be going over the websites of every one of these and many, many more about what to see when it comes to credit card stackers and the language that they use, right? So the Fund and Grows, their ad says, I'm looking at their ad right now, and it says $50,000 to $250,000 in business credit. But when you go there, the business credit is personal credit for your business. See the difference? Same with Sprout Financial. How much funding can you get? Seed Capital, which is notorious, right? We fueled growth for over 20,000 startups, but they don't tell you that Seed Capital, 100% of Seed Capital is personal credit cards. And remember, you're unfundable if you have too much available credit, crushing the soul of your personal borrower profile, right? Your credit profile gets hammered. You kill the goose that lays the golden egg, just like in the example of Chris and Nicole. Every one of these, right? Every one of these approved for $416,000, and that dollar amount was, when we do the deep dive on each one of these, you're going to see that those funding amounts ended up being on personal credit. Now, I want to cover kind of in review. When we say bad credit, that's like saying bad dog, right? Bad credit. It is a pejorative, and it usually refers to derogatory listings, as I've said, but bad credit in our terms means unfundable, and there's way more than derogatory listings to make you unfundable. So let's talk about Robert, right? Robert came to us when he was in, and I use client examples because these are live in my face every single day. Me and my team are saving the financial souls of borrowers all across the country in every type of business, every entrepreneurial sector, every real estate and note buying. We run into folks in real time, boots on the ground, saving their freaking hindquarters because they are in trouble, right? And so if you're in trouble, man, do something about it. But let's talk about Robert. Robert came to us with credit scores that were 619, 612, and 618, fully unfundable, and he had a number of the unfundable things. Too much, because he was a real estate investor, he had too much available credit from a credit card stacking thing. He was using, his utilization was high because every single thing he had done everything he had done was based on his personal, using his personal credit cards to raise those limits and do his fix and flips, right? He was a buy and hold real estate investor. So let's take a look at what those costs are. So let's say you have an 800 plus profile, not a score, a profile. Your profile is worth 800 plus. The points are accurate, but it's a fundable 800 profile. All right. And notice I'm just using examples here of 4.5% mortgage, which are available at the time this was recorded. You're on a $200,000 house. That means your mortgage payment is going to be about $1,000, $1,013, right? But Robert couldn't qualify for that. He was paying 6.5% interest because his profile was in the 620s to 640s, and he could only qualify, and his payment was $1,264 for that 6.5% interest. And so as a result, he's paying over $200 a year, which times 12. $200 a month times 12 was over $3,000 per year that he was throwing away, right? That's what it cost him every single month for every property. Now, let's just talk about what FICO loves to see on a credit report. If you have let's say you're buying holds, 4 mortgages, and they could be multifamily, they could be single family, duplex, whatever. If you have 4 Fannie or Freddie loans on your profile, you got heft on that profile. So I'm going to use that as an example. $312 per year, 4 properties. Yes, he's getting there's some asset appreciation over the course of owning these. So it ultimately, in the end game, it's worth holding them. But he's losing $12,000 a year. $12,000 a year on those 4 homes, just because he's not fundable. And remember, fundable is not the bad credit. It's too much credit, high utilization, too many inquiries, all 7 of those things, right? So but he's paying full 2% higher than he has to because he doesn't know the rules of this game, and he doesn't know how to manage his fundability, like you're learning right now. Now, next thing, for some of you, you might be renting out there, and I do want to cover the cost of being unfundable, because if you got into a home, especially as things have been ramping up in real estate values or otherwise, let's use a simple example. Let's say you're paying rent of $1,000 a month. So I don't know where you are in the country to pay $1,000 a month, but let's say you are. Let's say that it is, but you can afford, cash flow wise, you can afford a $100,000 home. And if that $100,000 home is appreciating 5% per year, then your rent, you're losing $1,000 a month. So that's $12,000. You're losing $5,000 appreciation every year on that $100,000 home. So that's $5,000. So for renting, you are flushing down the toilet $17,000 per year. $17,000 that's not going to your nest egg. That's not okay, guys. That's not okay. We want to make sure that you have the tools, and that's what the whole Are You Effable? Are You Fundable? Right? The whole podcast is devoted to exploring these things, and so that you can come with me behind the curtain and see how it really works, and recognize that it's costing you a fortune to be paying rent, or to not have the best mortgages, or the best auto loan rates, or whatever, or not get business lines of credit so that you can write a check and do a deal. It's costing you a fortune for being unfundable. All right. And then in Robert's example, we used a whole bunch of the processes. Every one of these, there's going to be a podcast on, guys. Every one of them. We're going to talk about synchronizing credit identity data points. We're going to be talking about investigating what the Fair Credit Reporting Act is and how to investigate violations. Not credit repair, actually what a deep dive into the Fair Credit Reporting Act and what are your rights, so you know, right? We're going to learn how to verify statutory terminus dates. Do you realize some of your credit, your trade lines stay on for too long? And the bureaus, for whatever reason, because of bad data management, they stay on too long, and it's and it's creating a drag against your fundability. So we're going to be talking about statutory terminus dates. We're going to be talking about reconciling inter-bureau discrepancies. How the bureaus all are all publishing scores from their from FICO about their data. But what happens when you have 20, 30, 50, 100-point difference between those? You're getting killed out there. So we're going to be talking about how to vacate state and federal tax liens. Seriously, I'm going to tell you how to if you ever had a tax lien, there are many states. It's not every single state, but many states will show you how, will allow you to get rid of those off your credit report. No harm, no foul. There are special amnesty programs for credit, natural disaster programs, etc. A podcast on that. We're going to be talking about how to synchronize lender and credit bureau data points, how to actually monitor the reporting process between creditors and the bureaus, right? Because FICO can only score, and lender underwriting software can only look and evaluate the data that is on your profile. You're in charge of what that profile looks like, all right? And the data points and how to reconcile them. We're going to talk about new rules violations. Yeah, there are new rules about the reporting of public records, reporting of collections. There's a whole bunch of awesome things for us to talk about. We're going to be talking about collection accounts, validate and verify letters, settlements. What's the rules of the game on settlements, right? How the hypothecation of money literally creates an artificial reason for lenders to lower the amount they're willing to take. And we're going to be talking about that. And then also, have you even heard of LexisNexis or even heard of early warning systems? All of these things are going to be forthcoming. So I'm a binger. It's a couple podcasts and Netflix and everything. I'm just all in. I know you can't tell that. I know it's not obvious, but when I'm present, I am all into what I'm doing. So guys, you're going to have, this is just going to be monster coverage. But these are the things that we did when we coached at the boot camp. Any of our clients, students, all learn what you're going to learn in the podcast. Every single thing that we're talking about is going to be a deeper dive taken. So the ending credit score, when we finished, it was 20 months later, right? It was 22 months later. But notice the scores. And these scores are fundable scores. His new scores were 836, 846, and 836 compared to the 619, 612, and 618. Guys, anything that you do is based on, if you base it on your fundability paradigm, if you base it on how fundable you are, then no matter what else you do, your lenders are going to look at you seriously, and lenders are going to create this profile. Every one of his high scores were based on legitimate movement, shaping, and reconstruction of the borrower metrics that FICO and lender software measure. So, guys, I'm telling you right now, there is nothing that we cannot do or there is no situation that you can run into that we're not going to be covering on Are You Effable? So, I'm so glad you joined me today. I want to make sure that you comment in the notes in the podcast. The podcast is going to be available at fundinghackers.com podcast. The podcast, as well as all the notes that from this episode, the blog version of the episode will be right there. Share it with your friends. Go like us on Facebook if you love what's going on here, and you can get updates even on our Facebook page. We are committed to making sure that you are an empowered professional borrower. That is the point of Are You Effable podcast. So until I see you next time, We are in this together. Godspeed and God bless. Hey guys, thank you for listening to Are You Effable? Please leave comments because I would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit fundinghackers.com to view the blog post, get important links, join our community, and much, much more. And you gotta tell your friends about this podcast. We want them to become effable too.